Hello everyone, this is Tactical Lich here and welcome to another episode of Battle Replay, and today we'll be facing the High Elves as the vampires. And thankfully, the High Elves did not bring the most meta build of Elite High Elf box. Just one single Phoenix Guard and a bunch of other variety of troops instead of, well, Elite troops and dragons. So for the High Elf build, we have 3 Rangers interspersed with some Phoenix Guards and Swordmasters of Hoeth. At the back, some really scattered archer deployment, 4 of them with a couple handmaidens in there, and a lone firebond as the mobility force to protect the backline. So I assume the line of thought here is to hold back the main vampire assault with the elite infantry of the High Elves. Phoenix Guards, Swordmasters can do a lot of damage to a lot of vampire count units. And while they're tangling up the vampire forces, the archers will be shooting in, focusing down the key targets like monsters like Vargal or their cavalry, and dishing out as much damage as possible. And if there are any high threat targets breaking through the front line, the Fireborn using their anti-large fire damage, massive charge bonus, will counterpunch them effectively and ruining whatever that vampire count sent in their way. As for the leadership, we have Eltharion the Grim on Stormwing, bringing in Viary, Convocation, Tempest, and Apotheosis for some healing. As for the Vampire Count army, we have a line of zombies, 3 Grave Gods, a couple Great Weapon variants, and the Sternsmen, a couple Crypt Horrors, a couple of Spearmen, a couple of Felbats, and a couple White Kings. Yes, we're coming in with a lot of pairs today, and Heinrich Himmler in the middle, sporting Winds of Death, Zombie Summons, Dance Macabre, and Invocation of Nahek. And yeah, we have a couple Corpse cards with Unholy Lodestone for some extra healing as well. We also have a Blood Knight for mobility, so any monsters or cavalry, they will be tasked to deal with them. And now let's get the battle started. Now, we'll do a little bit of fast forwarding because there's not much happening at the beginning. Just 2 armies approaching each other. You can see the infantry from the High Elves are pushing forward, leaving a lot of space in between for the Fireborn to roam, as well as giving some distance between the front line and the archers, so there won't be like a zombie summon dumped right on top of these archers. Over here, some Blood Knights try to get through this gap between some Rangers and Swordmasters, but with the close proximity, the Fireborn inside, they're not doing that and just retreating back into the safety of the front line. Fireborn actually got into charging distance and did the charging animation against the Blood Knights, but they're caught in a bunch of zombies. And now, with a zombie summon dropped right behind them, they are having trouble to get out of the situation at this point. As you can see here, with the heavy mass and refusing to get knocked down from these zombies, the Fireborn most of the unit is basically caught in a bunch of chaff. Over here, the Swordmasters just handily deleted some Grave God with great weapons, but the problem is the main line. With the Fireborn trapped between a bunch of zombies and more zombies and Crypt Horrors hot in pursuit, they're taking a lot of unnecessary damage, and Rangers routing, they lost any infantry support. The Phoenix Guard are now tangled up in a bunch of zombies and Grave God with great weapons. The Swordmasters over here are now getting smacked by some Crypt Horrors. No infantry in sight to support them. The only available mobility is Eltharion the Grim. Over here, some bats are actually stopping the archers from firing in, so they're not getting any fire support either. With Blood Knights catching them, or they catching the Blood Knights and engaging in hand-to-hand combat, the Fireborn, elite as they are getting overwhelmed right now. So yeah, already down to less than half health. Not much can be done as they are already wavering, and with the close proximity of Blood Knights and all the other elements, the heroes and whatnot from the vampire counts, they're not getting out of this alive. The archers now finally finish off. The Felbats are now firing in, but it's too little too late. Blood Knights taking some massive damage from Eltharion, but with Invocation of the Hex going down, they can be healed up pretty handily. And with the loss of Fireborn, the Blood Knights are now free to roam the back lines. Eltharion also realizing that without infantry support, he's better off just to get out of there. And yeah, he's flying back up to the skies, leaving the Blood Knights to rampage around the back line, now charging straight forward to some archers. over here a fiery convocation went down the line, roasting some Stonesmen and Grave Gods, but actually did more harm than good here, as they did some massive damage on the Phoenix Gods. But over here, the Stone Masters of Hoev really getting beaten up by the Crypt Horrors, although they did some pretty decent damage in return. But not killing a single model means that they'll simply get healed up. Especially when the whole blob of Crypt Horrors are surrounding the Kemmler and some Corpse Gods. So they basically right now has 18 HP regeneration per second right now, with regeneration, Master of the Dead, Chaos Tomb Blade, Unholy Lodestone, all that combined together is providing some massive passive healing in return. And archers desperately try to expand their ammo, shooting down some Crypt Horrors, but not really killing a lot of models. And as you can see, the HP right now is actually ticking up pretty fast. Same goes for the Stonesmen, who actually take some pretty decent damage from the Cavalry Convocation, but with only Rangers surrounding them and Kemmler engaged in combat, their HP is ticking up rapidly as well, already back to 5,000 HP and just constantly ticking up. Over here, the Blood Knights already up to 2 chevrons, getting for a third right now. Just rampaging, rolling through the through the back lines. Some archer units are severely depleted from the charges, and Elflarion the Grim getting caught up on some Graveguard. Not the best time to deal with his damage. Basically, not really that much value to be gained from hunting down the Grave Gods, as the backline already get caught by some spearmen, skeleton spears. Blood Knights are now ignoring Elflarion, going after this lone archer unit, and this whole blob of unholy melee forces just coming in with Crypt Horrors, Stonesman rolling into the fray. This Handmaiden is left alone to stand up against a bunch of Grave Gods, skeleton spears, and a couple White Kings. But actually, right now she's getting a pretty decent engagement with the anti-large damage right here, and the lack of armor on these Crypt Horrors. She'll do some pretty decent job against the Crypt Horrors. But of course, the archers, only one unit is left to be firing into the fray. The rest are just getting chased off by the Blood Knights, who is up to 3 chevrons now. But Elflarion the Grim inside, he no doubt will be desperately hunting them down to the last Blood Knight and finish them off, just so to save whatever tattered archers they have left. Over here, some archers got caught by Kemmler on foot, dropped the zombie summon on them, and are now routed. And seeing them being so close to the white line here, they should be chased off before the zombie summon dissipates. And now over here, White King get caught on some Phoenix Guards and some rather tattered Rangers. Not the biggest problem on Earth right now, as a couple Crypt Horrors just rush in with their faster speed and now beating down whatever is left on the High Elf Infantry roster. The Handmaiden over here getting surrounded by a lot of undead units, not right now already wavering. Fighting with White King is not what she wants. And as you can see, already routed. A Scab went down the line over this side, routing some Rangers, and the rest of the Rangers buckled. Phoenix Guard as well being so tattered. Not really much can be done by the High Elf Infantry. Only now a Handmaiden of the Everqueen remains to hold the line. But yeah, archers over here got chased off. Some 2 really depleted archer units are now coming back, trying to shoot down whatever ammo they have left into these Crypt Horrors, but not really enough to save the day here. Kemmler got a little bit separated. Oh my god, these Stonesmen already back up to full health for 80 models, and this is actually a mixed blessing. Elflarion the Grim went in to go after Harry Kemmler, but putting him in melee combat actually gives a little bit more healing for the Stonesmen, allowing that 2 models to get resurrected. Over here, Handmaidens of the Everqueen now surrounded by Crypt Ghouls, Corpse Gods, and a lot of vampire characters. Harry Kemmler going in for his share, so Elflarion has no choice but to dive down and save the Maiden. But that leaves him surrounded by Crypt Horrors, getting stuck on a Corpse God, Now, as you might have remembered, I have not summoned Kraut yet, and here he comes with the ominous blue glow on his big old axe, just going after that Stormwing booty. One heavy chop goes down, and there goes the leadership of the High Elves, as did the entire High Elf army. And yes, the vampire army this time stands victorious. Now let's have a look at the post-battle screen. The leadership of the vampire counts didn't do much here, as they're mainly there to hold the line, provide support, and yeah, heal back the infantry corps. As for the chaff, they are chaff after all, so not much happened. Graveguard with great weapons, this one did alright, still having quite a bit of steam left, but this one got absolutely wrecked by the Swordmasters. Stunsman did pretty good, considering they just fight against Rangers and Phoenix Guards the whole time, so that's kind of expected since none of those units are great at countering the Stunsman. Blood Knights MVP of the game, charging down rows and rows of archers, getting 2,678 value out there, 153 kills, 3 chevrons actually. That's some insane value. Felbats distracted some archers but then got shut down pretty quick. Surprisingly, Crypt Horrors did pretty decent. This one got 1 chevron, this one died but still earned back their value. And yeah, Corpse Cart, they're not there for damage anyways, took some damage in return instead. As for the High Elves, Altharion did 4,200 damage. That's some insane stuff, but considering he spent most of the time chasing after Blood Knights, I assume most of the damage value came from whatever the Blood Knights healed up. So yes, that's a lot of damage, but not enough to change the fact that he failed to finish off and pin down the Blood Knights. Handmaidens of the Everqueen did alright. Nothing too special actually. As for the infantry, they got some pretty impressive kills, but not too impressive in terms of value. Swordmasters earned back their value, assuming fighting back against a bunch of Graveguards with great weapons and skeleton spears, and did some damage to Crypt Horrors, but yeah, they just died off pretty early back there. Phoenix Guard did not earn back their worth, getting saturated on by the unholy blob of healing, armor piercing, and chaff blob. Is just not a good time for these guys. Archers did surprisingly well. I think they all earned back their value, but the problem is a lot of value they did are damage dealt to units that can heal, say the Crypt Horrors. Throughout the whole time, even after it did all the damage, the Crypt Horror still stands in a pretty impressive strength. About half health and just kept healing. They couldn't dish out the damage fast enough, basically. As for the Fireborn, pretty disappointing because they got caught by a bunch of zombies. And yes, zombies are very dangerous against cavalry charges. Definitely not the regular ones, but the summoned ones are pretty disgusting. Now let's go into the army selection screen and have a little talk about this zombie counter cavalry tactic. Now for some afterthought. Early game frontal charges is still a pretty viable strategy. It's been there since game 1, and yeah, just using that charge bonus, getting that free damage against chaff like peasants, goblins, and skavens, it sounds all fine. It's basically a pretty good strategy to really grind down enemy chaff before engagement, but against the undead, it's much riskier these days. And that is mainly because of 3 factors. The first one is the summoning method of the zombies, how they appear. Unlike Skaven slaves or zombie pirate deckhand mobs, who pour out from a certain spot, these zombies just emerge from the ground, just pop up right behind you, and voila! In a couple seconds you're suddenly surrounded by zombies. Zombie pirates and Skaven slaves are not that tricky to deal with, because they pour out from a certain direction. You still have 2 sides that you can kind of choose to escape from, but zombie summons, not so much. A skilled player would just pop it down right above your unit, and bam, suddenly your units are all surrounded by zombies, and they can't really move anywhere. Dryka summons also have a similar effect, but you can't really use Dryads to this kind of effect because first of all, they are breakable, and secondly, they don't have the kind of mass of zombies, and that leads me to my second point. All the undead infantry has heavy mass. Now, with something like, say, Skaven Slaves, you can simply just push them aside with heavy cavalry and somehow get yourselves out of the fray. But with undead infantry, not so much. You try to push on them, but you saw how those Fireborn try to struggle to get out. They try to push their way out of there, but the zombie just won't budge. And not only that, but also the knockback changes, which is my third point. With knockback changes implemented months ago, force pathing through zombies is no longer possible because zombies, first of all, they don't break like other units, they don't run away. Secondly, you can't push them aside because they have heavy mass. And thirdly, now you can't even knock them over and plow through the whole mass of chaff. You just kind of have to stuck there and try to kill them first before you get out. And yeah, now before you charge in your cavalry, you really should start thinking twice, especially against something close to a vampire lord. Simply because if you charge your cavalry in, they might very well not be able to get out again, just like those Fireborn. Yes, they're elite of the elites, but if they get caught by some lowly chaff zombies and then get slaughtered by blood knights and monsters and whatnot, then that's just a waste of their lives. And all that for a little bit of charge damage on some zombie chaff, that's definitely not worth it. So that wraps up today's video. I hope you enjoy it, and if you do, please do hit that like and subscribe button. I will be regularly uploading topics regarding, say, tips and strategies, crazy builds, or just general battle replays. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich signing out.